Hi guys, Aaron Dorr here, policy advisor with Wyoming gun owners, with kind of a weekend update, if you will, or a recap, as guys, we approach the very near start of the 2018 legislative session. Guys, don't forget, session begins on February 12th, so we're now very near kicking off this fight for stand your ground law here in Wyoming. Guys, if you've been hearing us for the last couple of days and weeks now by Facebook and email, we've been asking you guys to contact your lawmakers and urge them to co-sponsor this bill being sponsored by State Senator Anthony Bouchard and State Representative Timothy Salazar. And you guys are making your calls and adding your emails, and we can't thank you enough for that. Some of you guys, though, when you're making your calls to your lawmakers, are being fed an awful lot of bad information from lawmakers who are trying to avoid having to deal with this issue. You're hearing all kinds of things from what stand your ground law actually means, how it would be applied here in Wyoming, and more importantly, from a lot of lawmakers, you're hearing, we have no need for this here in Wyoming, we have no problems that we know of, and we have case law to protect gun owners in case they use their firearm in a self-defense situation. All of this is baloney. We're going to break this down for you guys in today's brief weekend recap video. Guys, first of all, number one, stand your ground law, again, is a very simple concept. If you meet the current established threshold to use your firearm in a self-defense situation, if you're the would-be victim from a rape, a robbery, a murder, violent, felonious, armed criminal assaults from a very violent thug, all this bill says is that you could use that firearm without having to retreat. That's what this bill does. It doesn't change the laws on when you can use force. It doesn't change the laws on owning firearms. All it says is that if you are allowed to have that firearm, and if you're allowed to use that firearm to defend yourself or your loved ones from a violent criminal, you would no longer have to retreat. That's it. The bill also has important criminal and civil law protections to defend you from an overzealous prosecutor or from a thug who's trying to make millions off of you in civil court after the fact. Now, some people are being told by lawmakers, again, there's no need for this. We have case law to protect you from a situation involving a use of force. First of all, guys, that's absurd on its face. 35 other states already have stand your ground law. Did all 35 other states make a mistake? Did they pass laws that were extraneous and not required? No, of course not. If these protections are not in the code, you got nothing. We all know that. So 35 states have already done this. We have not done this yet in Wyoming. We have to get this done to protect gun owners. But more particularly, we have two cases we're going to discuss in today's video, two situations where a gun owner was forced to use his firearm in a self-defense situation, and both times it was the law-abiding gun owner who was prosecuted and the law-abiding gun owner whose life was put on hold or went through hell trying to clear his name. Here's just two cases to be aware of. A couple of years ago, right outside of Cheyenne, situation where a 14-year-old girl and her young brother on the front porch of their own home, and they see this crazed, tattoo-covered gang member approach their house, and he terrified them. These two kids run inside the residence, they close the door, they lock it, right as the suspect forces his arm through a window in the door, forces his arm in through a window, trying to get to the deadbolt to get inside the residence. Now, hearing the screams of his younger siblings, their 21-year-old older brother in the back of the house, he runs to the back door, goes to his truck, gets a firearm, runs around to the front of the house to confront this guy who's now, halfway inside the door of this home. And so as this confrontation moves from the front porch down to the front yard, realize what happened. You see, we have castle doctrine here in Wyoming. So if he was forced to shoot this guy in the home or on the porch or in his business or in his vehicle, he'd have been protected. But because the suspect moved from the front of the house to the yard, all of a sudden, we have no protections here in Wyoming. And so as this guy continued as he continued to assault or try to assault the older brother, he was forced to use his firearm and he shot this suspect. And guess who was prosecuted? Guess who went to have to go to jail? It was the brother who used his firearm. His name is Chase Vossler. Mr. Vossler went to jail. Mr. Vossler was criminally charged. Mr. Vossler was drugged through criminal court. Now, thank God, Mr. Vossler was found not guilty. But can you imagine having to go through that kind of hell on earth because some thug tried to attack and harm your family? That's what happens when we don't have stand your ground law. These days, Mr. Vossler is a United States Marine service member currently deployed in the military. The guy who assaulted his family and tried to assault his sister, he died of a self-inflicted drug overdose. This is the character of these two individuals. Yet the prosecution prosecuted Mr. Vossler. Guys, if it can happen to him, it can darn sure happen to any one of us. A separate case in Worland, Wyoming. This wrapped up in state Supreme Court just last year. Here's a case where a husband and wife and their kids are outside of their home in the yard. Same thing, see, they're not inside their residence. They have no protection from castle doctrine. They're inside, they're outside of their yard, of their property on the yard, and an older individual opens fire on them with a handgun, aiming for their legs and their feet. In this case, the husband draws his own concealed handgun. He returns fire and he kills the man who was trying to shoot and kill him, his wife, and their multiple children. Same thing. The husband, in this case, he was the one who was arrested. He was the one who was prosecuted. He, in this case, was the one who was convicted. He went to jail. Now, thankfully, the state Supreme Court recently, as in last spring, overturned this conviction on a technicality due to the jury instructions. This individual was since released from prison. His conviction has been vacated, and he's allowed to move on with his life. But how many of you want to risk your family's future, your freedom, on a technicality? How many of you want to sit there and have to hope and pray that some sane judge somewhere overturns the conviction a lower court gave you? That's what we're facing here in Wyoming as long as we do not have stand your ground law on the books. So guys, this fight's going to kick off very shortly. In the meantime, before that happens, again, we have a couple more days where we're urging you guys to contact your lawmakers and urge them to support stand your ground law here in Wyoming by co-sponsoring the bill being introduced by Senator Bouchard and House Rep Salazar. Guys, we have links above this video. One link to your state senator, one to your state rep. Hit the link. Add your name and address across the bottom and hit send. That's it. We have your state representatives' names already filled in, their emails already filled in, their address that is, and our pre-written email all done for you. Hit the link, add your name, hit send. It's that easy to talk to your lawmakers. So guys, I'm going to wrap this up for right now. This fight begins in earnest in just a couple of days. So you talk to your lawmakers. Don't believe the lies or the hype or the spin you're being given. This is an urgent need for gun owners here in Wyoming. Let's get it done in 2018, guys. Thanks a lot. More to come next week.